I apparently really suck at this. The sound wasn't working. I don't even know if I'm recording anything now. It looks like I am. Welcome to Dirt Circuit Gears. We're here with my 1990 Mazda Miata, and if things look a little bit more put together than you remember, it's because I'm shooting this out of sequence. I had some audio problems with my last intro, so I had to throw it out along with a lot of my video from that day, and here I am reshooting it. So let's get right into it. Motor mounts arrived, thanks to Flying Miata. And before I install these motor mounts, I wanted to do a quick comparison of what I'm taking out versus what I'm putting in. This is what I'm taking out. Mangled holes. And there's actually, I cut my hand on this thing more than once because there's like little tags of metal sticking out. So I'm really happy to throw this away. And this is the new one. I already put the new motor mount on. I also got new motor mounts. I probably could have reused the old ones. They were in decent shape, but what the hell. If we're going to do it, we should just do it. So I am really looking forward to putting this in. This is going to be so much better than what was in there before. This is for the driver's side. Once I get the passenger side in, I can do the driver's side. Before I fix this, I wanted to point something out. Notice something a little wrong here? This guy. This, I think, belongs behind this nut. I actually had to separate this nut with the impact gun, which is probably why it was just hanging out here loose. And this is for the clutch slave cylinder, which I'm sure I'll have to replace. But I'm just gonna have a quick Joe Biden moment and say, come on, man. Come on. Come on. Like, this is something that should not be the way it is. There's a lot of things that should not be the way they are. But come on. I was putting the intake side of the Miata's engine back together when I ran into a little bit of a mystery here. I can't get this bracket up to the block. And I just dropped the bolt back into no man's land. And that's because this here, part of the water pump, is blocking it. So I did a little dumpster diving, and oh boy. Here's the water pump I removed. And I noticed, yes, this one did have that same bolt hole on it, but it was cut off. So I went back inside. I researched the bracket, realized that the 95 bracket is different from the 90 to the 94, 90, 93, whatever year this car is. So this car has the original alternator bracket. I could buy a new bracket, but it costs $30. Or I could just cut this little asshole off for free. I don't know how much I want the alternator hanging off of the water pump anyway, so I actually kind of like it better this way. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and then I can put the alternator back on. I actually have safety glasses like a smart person, and earplugs. And there you go, the alternator is installed. Gets a little bit close to the water pump, but I don't think that's a big deal considering the water pump was designed for the alternator to hang off of it. So this means that every water pump is going to have to be trimmed down just like this one was, or next time you do this job, just get a bracket for a 95 and it'll go on just fine with all of that extra contraption. I think it's just fine the way it is, though. I'm going to move forward with putting the intake manifold on. I cleaned it up all nice, and so I'm excited to see it on the car. I really didn't like how the paint was turning out here, and I think it's mostly because I didn't prime it. So I'm bringing it back down to the bare metal, and I am actually going to prime it. It was just something about having the brake booster in there, and if I had to redo it, I would have to take all of this brake stuff out again in order to get the same access that I have now. So I decided to just bring it back down to the bare metal so that I could lay a proper coat of primer and hopefully get a nice, a much better job at painting this section of the car. I noticed after I had laid the paint and the clear that the paint was still really soft. It hadn't really cured, and it was bubbling really bad, and I just felt like this is just going to come right off. So I think once I put some primer on it, it's going to have much better coverage, it's going to look better, and last a lot longer. All right, here's the primer. It already feels a lot more smooth. I think this is going to be a lot more durable than not using the primer. And I really should have done it this way from the beginning, but, you know, lesson learned. I've also painted the deck below the brake booster, and I did something kind of ridiculous with the brake booster itself. I did also have to repaint it. So when I hit it with the wire brush, got all the paint off and the rust, I decided that this kind of actually looked really good. It's really silly, but it's also kind of cool at the same time. So I sprayed it with a bunch of clear coat, and I just left it like that. The back is actually painted black, but since you can't see it, I'm not worried about it. Since I had some downtime between waiting for coats to dry, I took apart the interior again and sprayed down the dash with some matte clear coat, and it is much better. You know, I'm not going to win any concourse points with this, but my God, this is almost decent. This is very tolerable. You know, if you look at the details, you're going to find flaws. I mean, there's still some pink in here, for God's sake, but, you know, overall, this is tolerable. I can sit in this car, I can drive it, and I can have a good time. I still have to finish putting this back together. And, you know, just in general, I got a lot to do down here anyway. So I'm not terribly worried about it. But, wow, this interior sure has come a long way. A long, long way. And then I've actually bolted in the intake manifold. And laid in the new fuel injectors. So I have the fuel rail sitting there, and I still need to get new fuel lines. I don't trust those fuel lines, so that's probably will be the next thing I do, because I really want to get this side back together. And then I've started to get this side back together, but I'm also missing this radiator hose that goes from here to here. So I have to figure that out. I'm not exactly sure. I might have something already that I can use, but if I don't, I have to go get one. And then I'll be able to put this side back together, and from there, the only thing blocking me is these lifters. And the reason why the lifters are blocking me is because I've got this one damaged lifter. And I've done a lot of thinking and a lot of reading and searching, and initially I did not want to buy new lifters because they were very expensive. But I found Treasure Coast Miata sells a complete set of lifters for just under $100. I think that's worth it. Because if this one lifter is damaged, who knows why that was damaged? Maybe it just collapsed from being worn out. I think I just want to replace the whole set if I can. And since $100 is not that bad, considering that it's a pretty essential part of this engine, I'm going to go for it. So I haven't touched the head because of that. I have bolted down the head, but I haven't put the camshafts on or any of that. But once I do get those lifters, I can put this together. I can put the timing belt on, put the cooling system back together, and I'll be able to start this car up without much more effort.